you for being with us. I'm Mary Yanez, Director of the Senior Adult Program, and this is Mature Living. Boy, do we have a story for you in this first interview. We've invited Judy Rey, who is one of our students in our Expressions of Life class with Nancy Green. And so her instructor, Nancy, recommended that I invite Judy to the show, to Mature Living, to share this beautiful story that I think you're going to enjoy and that you may want to think about what you can do in the same manner. Thank you for being with us, Judy. Thank you.
I'm very glad to be here.
And I just talked to you a little bit ago about all these wonderful things. Your mother wrote a book many, many years ago. So tell me a little bit about your family and your mom. What was her name?
My dad's name was Primo, and my mom's name was Cookie.
Yes.
And they met when my dad came to Fabens, which is where we were from. And at first she wasn't taken with him because she was only 13. And she went into the post office to get her mail, and the post office and the drugstore where Daddy worked were in the same building. So when she saw him, she said, "Is this the man everybody's talking about, the new man in town?"
Because he had come from another place.
Yes, he had come from Del Rio. And so he was very taken by her. But
beautiful lady.
She was so beautiful. My mother was very beautiful, very talented. My mother played the piano and she sang. And she was just, ever since she was 6, she played the piano.
Yes.
So she was a very good person. Her parents taught her well. Yes. Devout Catholics. My dad also. And that's what impressed my grandmother. Mama Cuca used to say, "I like this man because he is very spiritual. He goes to daily mass, and he's very respectful, and he's the kind of person that you admire."
Yes. So did they married? And they had children. I understand you're one of many children.
I'm one of 10.
Uh-huh.
My mother and dad started their family, and I have my oldest brother. His name is Primo Jr.
Yes.
And then a few years after that, it just tumbled, okay? I say that word, but I don't know if that's what my mother would have said. After Primo was born, my sister Marta was born.
Yes.
And she married, later on, she married David Prieto,
Yes.
Jr. And then my brother Bobby was in the Navy.
And this was in the 30s when they were born.
No,
in the 30s.
Yes, the first 3 were born in the 30s. And
then on
and then
to 10
there's 4th was my sister Billy Ann, and then Rosemary, Sandy, then me, and then Miguel, Tommy, and Terry, my baby sister.
Wow, that's a beautiful family, and I'm sure it was a very active family.
Oh,
very,
definitely.
A lot of commotion, I would imagine.
Yes, a lot of singing, a lot of dancing, a lot of music in our family. My mother was always playing the piano for us.
Yes.
And whenever we had parties, my mother would say, "You can't invite anybody, because there's already enough of us here." And
true.
so my mother would play the old standards, and mostly Mexican music, and my dad would dance with each one of us.
Good dancers.
And I was very small, so I would stand on my dad's feet and follow his motions.
Yes. There's so many similarities in families, but something that I want to talk about right now that is so important is that your mom wrote some memoirs, or wrote a book in the 50s, and it was published in the 60s.
No.
Or how did that go?
Well, you're right. My sister was born in 1957. This is the baby. And in between I don't know when my mother was inspired to write a book. It might have been years before.
Yes.
But uh, it took her 3 years to have it published. So you're right, 50s, 57 to 1960, she got a publisher, she had it published. And
And what did she write about in the book?
she wrote a letter to each one of us, to each one of my brothers and sisters, and my dad, and she wrote to her then 5 grandchildren.
Which now has grown to
Over 70, I think.
over 70. Right. I'm sure with 10 children, can you imagine the growth? Tell me about the dedication in the that she wrote at the beginning and what the meaning is. And the title of the book as well.
The title is The Song of Time by Cookie Contreras. This book, she said, is dedicated to Mary, mother of mothers, without whose help it could not have been written.
And this is the Virgin, the Blessed Mother,
Yes.
Mary.
Yes. My mother was very devoted, as was my dad. They taught us the basics. They brought religion to us. And with religion, of course, comes spirituality. So we had a lot of good examples from both my parents and from my grandmother, Mama Cuca Carvajal.
Mm-hmm.
She was the organist at the church.
Okay.
And when she left to live in El Paso, my mother took over.
Yes.
And she would play the
the
organ
church.
at church, yes.
You know, and with the holidays coming up, December the 12th is the tradition of the celebration of the apparition of Our Lady of Guadalupe. And this dedication fits that so well, the Mother of Mothers, and that is what she said to Juan Diego, who is now Saint Juan Diego, and said, "Are I not here? Am I not your mother?" You know, so this is very, very special. It's a very special time to talk about the book. Tell me some of the messages, maybe the letter that she wrote to you.
My letter starts, Dear Judy Pye. Judy Pye, remember how your older brother called you that? Of course, that is not your real name. Would you like to know why it is not your real name? 2 days after your birth, you were taken to church to be christened. Your godparents were your own brother and sister. When the attending priest began to write down the necessary facts for your baptismal certificate before the actual ceremony, he asked what the name of the baby was to be. He was told that it was to be Judith Dolores. What? The priest exclaimed, seemingly surprised. How can you name this baby Judith? This is not the right name for the baby. The priest said it was unthinkable, since this was the day of the Feast of the Immaculate Conception. It was unthinkable for you to be for this child to be named Judith. So he named me.
Oh,
Yes.
my goodness.
Mm-hmm. And my dad said, well, you name the baby whatever you want. But when they brought me home with my baptismal certificate, my mother was
furious.
And she said, how dare this priest, you know? So anyway, and why didn't you, she asked my dad, why didn't you stick up for me?
This is the name of our baby.
Yes.
Uh-huh.
So anyway, it come to find out that was just, my legal name at the time was Concepcion Dolores Contreras.
Okay.
But try
In the
writing it
baptism
down.
certificate.
Try writing it down. It's a very
What
long
a
name.
story. And that's very, very interesting. I'm going to probably take a little break here, and then we're going to return because I do want you to read the part of the letter to your dad.
Yes.
Your mother to your dad. And of course, her name is Cookie Contreras, and your father's name was
Primo.
Primo Contreras. We'll be back. I want to continue our conversation with Judy Rey. Her mother, Cookie Contreras, wrote a reflection book. And this is to inspire us to possibly get an idea of what she put in the book. And one of the things that she wrote, or whom she wrote to, was her husband. And so Primo was his name. And so Judy's going to read a little bit of or talk a little bit about your dad. Let's talk about your dad. And in Fabens, he owned a drugstore.
He owned a drugstore eventually. When he first came into the town, he apprenticed with a pharmacist. And through the years, he became so knowledgeable about different kinds of medicines and over-the-counter medications that people would come to him and say, Doctor Primo, tengo un problema con mi hijo. And he would say, okay, we'll try this.
He'll listen. And
yes. Wow. And he would help them. He would help. And sometimes the poor people could not even afford to pay him. But my dad was the most generous man in the whole world.
And so your mom, Cookie, also wrote a letter in this reflection book, because she wrote a letter to each of her children, to her husband, and to her 5 grandchildren at the time, that now has grown to about 70. But tell us and read to us a little bit about what she wrote to your father.
We couldn't say that we fell in love at first sight. You knew this very well. I was only 13 when you came to this town. I was not interested in you at all. But one day I walked into the drugstore where you were employed, and it also housed the post office. I was in line for the post office window when I heard someone say, "Someone has been asking for you." I turned and I saw your dad, and he was wiping a glass at the fountain. I just looked at you, Dad, but did not say anything. I was thinking, is this the man the girls have been side-glancing at? I just did not see what they had saw in you. To me, you were not a bit attractive, but let me tell you that 3 years later it was different. Even though I was not in love with you, you were very attentive. I could not help but be attracted to your charming manners and deep interest in me. We started to go together in spite of my parents' objections because of the difference in our ages. He was 11 years older than her. I began to fall in love with you, aided by your obvious sincerity and goodness, and your deep religious feeling, which had helped to get my mother on your side. You were also a hard worker. I had a lot of fears about marriage. I was 16 then, but hesitated because my mother thought I was too young. You assured me that together we would overcome any obstacles that would come up. When I was 17, we decided to start preparations to get married. The very day that your brother was to come to my father to ask for my hand in marriage, you had to have an emergency operation for appendicitis. We waited another year. I completed my junior year in high school, and you saved enough money so that we could get married. 20 days after my 18th birthday, we were married. It was a beautiful church wedding.
That is so beautiful.
My dad was the kind of person that did not talk very much. My mother was the talkative one. We all get that from her, except for my baby sister, who is very shy. Terry is very much the opposite of me, but we're the best of friends.
Yes.
Yes. My brother Tommy is very talkative. My brother Miguel is very talkative. Rosemary, Billy, and Martha were the ones that are left after my oldest brothers and my sister died. But we all seem, when we get together at functions, we all want to talk at the same time.
What a beautiful story. What a beautiful family. And the inspiration for all of us is to write a reflection book. And what is your message to mothers out there, to siblings, to grandmas, grandpas? What is your message about the example of what your mother did writing this book?
My mother wrote her book in her mid-40s. It's never too late to start. I just started a journal in February, and I had not had any kind of experience. I had not followed in my mother's footsteps. I just started jotting things down that I thought were important.
And
Now
that's so
I write it every day. I write something in my journal.
And in your class, in your Expressions of Life class, this is what the students do.
Yes, we do.
And so even in our 70s, we can write some memoirs or a reflection book so that our generations after us can read about what it was like and what we experienced and what we thought.
Yes, before we forget.
Before we forget.
Because we get to a certain age and we think we remember details about our lives. But I remember my mom when she had Alzheimer's, she would talk about her early childhood. That was really surprising to us because she had never opened up to us. But then she got a lot of details out to us before she stopped remembering, before she stopped recognizing us. So that has inspired me to put things down on paper, to write things down that will be someday, maybe never, but maybe someday some of my family, especially my nieces and nephews, my great nieces and nephews. I have also 3 great nieces that maybe someday, maybe a letter to them will inspire them to do something positive.
And they may want to read what Tia Judy wrote.
Yes.
That is so beautiful. I can't have a better ending of this conversation than what you've said and what we need to do. Your mother certainly inspired you and will inspire us, Cookie Contreras, to write letters and to put them in a binder. And she was so fortunate to have it published, and we hope that it'll come back to print so that we can all enjoy this beautiful book.
Yes.
Titled
The Song of Time.
The Song of Time. Beautiful. Thank you so much, Judy, for coming as one of our Expressions of Life students and the example that you are to all of us and to your peers that are also writing in class with our instructor, Nancy Green. It's a beautiful class. It's so different, and I'm sure you're enjoying it.
I have very much enjoyed it, and I'm looking forward to January when it will start again.
Again, you're right. Classes start again in the spring, in January, about mid-January. And thank you for reminding us, which if you want to register for Expressions of Life or any of our 60 or so sections of classes that we offer free for students with no tuition, 55 years and older, give us a call at 831-7801 about registration. Thank you so much, Judy.
Thank you.
So great to
Thank you,
meet
Mary. It was very nice meeting you.
Have a great holiday.
You too.
We'll be back. Well, thank you for staying with us here on Mature Living. There are some new and exciting things happening in the Northeast, and we're going to tell you all about it, don't worry. And so we've invited Jay Benishek, who is the director of Sun Metro. And of course, you brought your coordinator of public affairs. Thank you for calling us, by the way, to do this interview, Oscar Arriaga. Thank you for being here with us.
Thank you.
I'm going to give you all the time that I can because you have so much to talk about. So where do we begin to talk about the new and exciting things?
Well, the biggest, nicest, best exciting thing in the Northeast is the Northgate Transit Center. It's being built. It's been being worked on for probably almost a year now, and it's just about done. Got a couple more roads to pave, some touch-ups, do some wayfinding, and we're done. Basically, it's not only a transit center. That's the beauty of it. We have a transit center there at Northgate, around that Northgate area now, and that's all it is. This is really part of a transit-oriented development, and it's a $15 million grant we got from the federal government. And basically, what it is it's not only a transit center, where now all our Northeast vehicles will go to, and people can transfer. It'll be the home of the end of the Brio line, which will be starting next year with our BRT, our RTS, our fast service like we do on Mesa.
Yes.
So we'll have fixed route there. We're going to have our Brio there. We'll also have some development, new developments, and that's going to be, we'll have some retail area. We'll have 16,000 square feet of retail space, and we have 170 space parking 2-deck garage.
It'll be a great hangout area.
It's going to be a great hangout because we're in conjunction with Hunt Companies. And Hunt is going to develop, that whole area is about 30 acres. We have 6 of it. Hunt is going to develop the remaining 24 with some residential, whether apartments, condos. It's going to have retail. It's going to be a little community in itself. So the whole idea is, Mary, is that you can live there, you can shop there, you can take our service anywhere through town you want, and you don't really need a car.
And I've noticed over the years that we needed to rejuvenate Northeast. We needed to spiffy it up, and you're part of that.
This will do. We're part of it, and we're in partners with Hunt in the city of El Paso, obviously. And so it's going to be a great relationship. We can't wait to do it, and the federal government can't wait to see it. And so we're looking forward to it. And even if you go there now, you can see we actually did some work on Wren Avenue, which was the adjoining abutting street next to it. The facility, you can tell what it is. It's there. It's ready to go. A couple more trees, and we're just about ready to go.
Is that the only thing that's happening over there? Anything other that you want to mention?
Well, only that Hunt hasn't started their development yet. So when we get done, they're going to start looking at I think their first project or phase is going to be to build some apartments and condos there.
Yes.
And then from there, it's just going to morph into a nice retail area, a 30-acre site that I think people can get to and shop and live, and it'll be great. We're going to inspect the facility this week, at the end of this week. Once we do that, they have, I think, 45 days, 30 to 45 days to complete everything that we said. And then actually probably sometime like February, it'll be operational, and we'll be
Will there be a ribbon
in.
cutting or seminar?
Yeah, we'll do a grand
the whole
opening.
Community?
Absolutely. It'll be, I know this, this area has been an eyesore for a long time. And I think now finally that area, that Northeast area, can see something. It happened.
Wonderful people live over there. Oh my goodness.
Oh yeah, it's going to be beautiful.
We got to help them out.
I remember when we actually did the breaking of the old Northgate Mall there. We had this big ball, and we had this big ceremony, and there are a lot of people just to see that finally this thing is going to be leveled, and now we're going to start building something. That was exciting, just to start tearing it down.
That's it.
Yeah.
And I wanted to ask Oscar, if you don't mind, I wanted
Sure.
to ask Oscar what he's bringing. What highlights do you have to share?
Well, this season, of course, with Sun Metro is taking part of the holiday season that's coming around, and we feel the cold winter days already, and it's getting exciting, especially in downtown. So what Sun Metro did is we transformed a classic trolley that we have, a rubber tire trolley. We transformed it into with glimmering lights, Christmas lights, dazzling decorations inside, where people can board from the Glory Road Transfer Center and head out to the Winterfest in downtown for free.
Wow.
It's a great service where the trolley goes around every 30 minutes. So it drops in there in smack downtown in the middle of the Winterfest, and they have their fun. And every 30 minutes, the trolley keeps going back and forth, bring them back and forth to their car or to the Winterfest activities, having some fun.
And I see we're all set for the holidays, and your tie is one. It's a beautiful tie, by the way, with that beautiful tree. And so that's what Sun Metro is. I mean, you're part of the community.
We certainly are, and we have streetcar coming too. So we are a precursor. Next year, this time you can ride the streetcar.
Yes.
So
that's
going to be really exciting.
We're looking forward to everything you do. I know it's taken years and years and planning and this and that and contracts and maybe a few arguments.
for sure.
We have a great design of the streetcar, a bus wrap there at the Winterfest that Sun Metro put there, so people can board in. They can learn about the history of the streetcar when it first started from Mandy the Mule, 1882. That's our transit system here in El Paso, to the streetcar, to what's coming next in the future.
Yes.
Great opportunity for everybody to go in and go inside the bus and learn more about it.
So you can go to the Placita, look at all the beautiful lights. You can, as you're walking to the ice rink and looking at the Winterfest area, we're right between them.
Wonderful.
And you can just
Like
stop
an
in and look
exhibit,
at the
an
history of
exhibit.
streetcar.
It's a beautiful exhibit. Anything else that I may have missed to ask about that you want to?
No, but that static display is actually wrapped in the exact color scheme of the streetcars, what they'll be at. And once Winterfest done, we'll have 2 vehicles wrapped, just like that streetcar, going through town in fixed route. So if you see something that looks like a streetcar color, it's exactly what it's there for, to show people this is what you're going to see when our streetcar system starts.
Exciting times with
Yes,
Sun
it is.
Metro
It
and
is.
Brio and holidays and Northeast, and you've been busy.
We've been busy.
So you need to take a vacation now. You're going to Chicago. Where?
I'm going to Chicago to see my kids, yes.
That's wonderful. Well, it'll be colder over there.
Yeah, I know it will be. I can't wait.
Yeah. Take your big thick jackets.
I
you know.
will.
Anything you want to add?
No,
Oscar?
thank you for having us here. But also, if anybody wants to learn more of the activities that we have, they can call our customer service line at 212-3333, or they could go into our website at sunmetro.net.
Very good. And that's it, man.
Alrighty.
That's what we've got for everybody here.
Great.
We got some great things in El Paso, and these are the great people that are at Sun Metro. Thank you for being with us and taking
It's
time out of your work.
Always a pleasure to come
Oh,
here.
that's good. Well, we're part of the community. And we bring you
Absolutely.
good things. And we'll see you all next week, okay? And we'll see you over there with all the fun things in Northeast and there in the placita. Bye-bye.